Hello, wedding community. This week I am joined by Josh Russell. Josh operates a full-service photography and videography studio located in Wisconsin and travels all across the globe. Actually, he was just telling me that he's going to be going to Nashville here soon. So he's making his rounds all over the place and doing great work while he's traveling. I'd say probably one of the coolest things that Josh does is his same-day edits. If you actually go to his website, it's like one of the first things on his website. So we'll talk about that a little later in the podcast. He's also sponsored by Westcott. And if you're not familiar with Westcott, they really focus in on lighting. So chances are if you're sponsored by Westcott, it means you're really good at lighting. So we're going to talk about that as well. Josh, welcome to the podcast.
Hey man, thanks for having me. It's I love doing stuff like this, and I love chatting, especially on a morning when I'm kind of wide open on my schedule. So
yeah, awesome. Well, hopefully I won't take too much of your time today, but I thank you for joining me here. Before we get too far in, can you share with the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, man. So my name's Josh Russell. I'm a professional photographer. I run a commercial and wedding photography studio here in Kaukauna, Wisconsin. It's about 20 minutes south of Green Bay. I'm also a YouTuber. I have a YouTube channel where I teach photography. I teach mostly off-camera flash, and then I do some product reviews and stuff like that. And I teach nationwide at conventions when conventions start back up, and online Zoom conventions and things like that. But yeah, I run a commercial photography studio where we work on marketing and branding material, both photo and video. And then I shoot between 35 and 40 weddings a year too.
That's quite a good amount of weddings. I'm sure it keeps you busy for sure then.
Yeah, my weekends, my free weekends are few and far apart, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. What got you into doing weddings, Josh?
Well, it's funny because I originally started as a wedding DJ. 15, 16 years ago, I started with a buddy of mine who's now running a very, very successful DJ business. I worked with him for a few years, and then I started working in his photo booth when he got a photo booth. And it slowly, I was DJing by myself as well, and it kind of slowly transitioned because I've always had a love for photography and video. I've been doing it since I was 14 years old, 13 years old with a handy cam and a terrible disposable camera. So I've been in this I've always loved photo and video forever, so it slowly transitioned. For the longest time, I was shooting like music videos. I was shooting promotional material for like artists and bands and stuff like that. And I never had really stepped into the weddings, mainly because I was nervous about shooting a wedding because it is such a big, important day. And I didn't want to mess that up. But I got asked to do a family friend's wedding quite a few years back, and when they knew I was still doing DJing, so they asked me if I could DJ and do photography. So I did that, and it kind of slowly snowballed into more photography, less DJing. And then a few years ago, I just gave up DJing altogether, and I've just been doing photography and videography since.
That's great. You know, just with like the backwards hat and everything you have going on, I could definitely see you as a DJ.
Yeah, man. And most of the time, well, usually I don't wear the hat backwards, but I usually have a baseball cap on and jeans at my meetings and stuff like that. Now, weddings are different. Of course, I dress up for those, but I mean, I really, for my business, I want them to feel comfortable. I want them to know that I'm a normal person. You know, I'll rock a t-shirt and jeans at the engagement session and stuff like that because I want them to feel comfortable. I don't want them to feel like they've hired somebody. I want them to feel like they know me and it's just somebody that they're out there with. And even on wedding days, I still kind of do that as well. I'm dressed up, of course, but you know, I act goofy, I act ridiculous, just so it feels like they haven't hired somebody, but they've brought a friend in. So, yeah, backwards hat when I'm teaching conventions and stuff like that. This is me. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it makes it very approachable, and I like that. And we try to do that too. Like even. You know, we had a studio kind of before COVID, and it's a lot of times we'd still end up, even though we have the studio to meet with couples, and I would prefer that, we would still sometimes meet with them at Panera or something because they just wanted to grab lunch or coffee or whatever, and it kept it more casual. And, you know, something that probably used to be taboo even maybe just 5 years ago is like totally acceptable now, which is great because I prefer that. Like I always felt like it was a little stiff, like they're coming into our office and like, you know, it feels a little more like corporate, but then like if you're just like, you know, doing your final consultation at a Panera and you're having lunch together and talking through the wedding plans, you start kind of feeling like you're friends with them.
Right, and that's kind of what I do in here too. One, I have a golf simulator in my studio. I'm working on getting my ping pong table here. We're gonna put a pool table in. Like I want it to be a fun place as well. But like for meetings, we just come in and we kind of hang out, ask them if they, coffee or anything here. I was doing the Starbucks thing for a long time, but I really feel now that I'm I had a smaller studio prior to the one I'm in now, but now that I'm in this studio, and we're actually looking for a bigger space now too. But I feel like getting them in here and creating my own comfortable vibe based around my photography, and then actually having examples to show them has helped a lot, instead of just meeting at Starbucks, because it is that comfortable feeling, but I've created the comfortable feeling based around my business. So that really has helped me. And yeah, I used to do the polo shirt or the suit coat and stuff at meetings, but it's not really me, and that's not really what I want my business to be about. I want the fun, energetic side of it, not the uptight business, I guess. And not saying that that's uptight, but I want it based more around my casual style, and that's the type of clientele that I'm going for. Is the partiers that want the upscale photography, basically.
Yeah, and there's kind of a time and place for every kind of dress wear too, because I had one wedding, super out far west, kind of middle of nowhere, and the guys, they had suit jackets, but then they're wearing jeans and boots. And so here I am in like my bow tie and everything, and I'm like, oh man, I'm like overdressed, and you almost feel out of place because you're too overdressed. But then on the flip side, I've done some downtown hotel weddings in Chicago, and it's like I have to show, like if I don't show up in a suit and a tie and everything, like they're gonna probably kick me out. So there's definitely a certain kind of look that you have to kind of blend in with it, but at the same time you want to have your own personality in there. And I think like doing that during the consultation is the perfect way to be like, hey, this is who I am on a normal day. I'll dress how you need me to for your wedding, but like this is who I am. I'm a fun, relaxed person.
Right, and that's what I do in the meetings, in the contract signing meetings, I should say, is I let them know, like, no, this is how you've seen me a couple times, but this is not how I'll look on your wedding. I'll dress how you want, and go from there.
Yeah. Josh, I would love to know, since you offer photo and video, I would love to get kind of an insight on how you guys structure your packages.
Yeah, so as far as structuring the packages, and actually a little tip, I don't call them packages, I call them collections.
I love it. That's what I was hoping you would say, actually. So,
because for those listening and watching that don't know, a package is a complete product, where a collection can always be added onto. So that's why I use the word collection, because you can always add more things onto a collection, but a package sounds more like a complete thing. So that's a little tip. So my collections are, I do a half day photography, I do a full day photography, and then I do a full day photography and video. Those are the only 3 collections that I offer. So the half day is 6 hours. The full day is 10 hours with 2 photographers, which is most of the time myself and my wife. And then my photo and video is full day, 2 photographers, and either 1 or 2 videographers. So most of the time I use a friend of mine. His name's Casey Nelson. He runs Casey Nelson Media. He's my go-to videographer when I do these the full collection. And then either he'll have an assistant, or I'll have one of my interns here from the studio do the secondary video. And then the full day video collection, or photo video, and then the full day photo, that's the one that comes with like the same day edits. It comes with the same day prints, which as far as I know, I'm the only person in the entire nation crazy enough to do same day prints, which I know we're going to talk about in a little bit. But yeah, so basically a little bit about that is I actually print 4x6s of my favorite photo that day at the reception for guests to take home. So yeah, that's really been a huge, I guess you'd say, seller for my business. But yeah, I do also offer just videography, but I don't really actively promote that as much as I do the photo and video. And now, if somebody comes towards me looking for just videography, I'll tell them the pricing and stuff like that. But for the most part, I try to get them to book me as a photographer or photo and video together.
Yeah, that's great. And we're kind of similar, but just the reverse, where they're usually coming to us for video, and I want to do the video. And then if we can get photo on there, great. but I don't really want to be the one shooting photo. I would I'd rather someone else be shooting it. So my good excuse for not shooting photo is if they book video, and then like, yeah, you want me to do your video, I can find you a photographer, but I have to do the video. So yeah, that's great. Now, when I was kind of snooping around your wedding website, one of the first things on the website is actually these same-day edits. So to me, that sounds like a lot of work. So I'm just kind of curious to see like why you do it. Have you found it to be worth it? What's kind of the benefits of you doing it? I mean, if you're still doing it, there must be a reason why. So.
Yeah, there's a mixture of making the wedding guests happy and also making my self-esteem boosted. And I'll explain that a little bit because it does sound like totally egotistical, but it really does like boost my ego when this happens. But so a little bit about the same day edits. What I do is, like I said, typically, and these are only for the full day because I need that second photographer there, which is, like I said, most of the time my wife. So in a wedding, when you're going from, let's say, the getting ready area to the ceremony, you have driving time, or you have a little bit of time. After the formal photos, you usually go to a secondary location like a park or something like that. You have a little bit of driving time. What I do is I actually have my wife drive from location to location. I'm uploading my photos onto my iPad and editing them in Lightroom. And then what I do is during the day, anytime I have free time, I'm editing photos. Typically, it ends up being like 35 or 40 photos total that I've edited that day, using my own presets and then kind of just tweaking them per wedding. And then what I do is I actually put that on a TV at the reception. So anybody that wasn't at the ceremony can see what the first kiss looked like. They can see the venue, and it's super awesome. Like I get a lot of aunts and uncles walking over that were like, oh my God, how did you get these edited that fast? How did you get these that beautiful that fast? Like, because I know there's a lot of other photographers that do like a slideshow from the day of photos, but I know most of them just literally take them off the SD card and put them on a computer and then run the slideshow. Where I'm actually fully editing. I'll do sky replacements that day. I'll do my own color grading and everything. So like I'm doing what a lot of videographers do with their quick same day edits. I'm doing it for photo, and then I bring a table that's like nice and skirted, and I leave that in the reception throughout, or in the venue throughout the reception until we leave. So it's there a couple hours. They get to see photos that day. And it's been huge. Like people just absolutely love it. I mean, and a good thing about that is I know a lot of photographers do like a 72-hour turnaround on sneak peeks. I actually emailed them their sneak peeks that same night because it's those same day edit photos. So they're getting those photos that night. That way, when they wake up, probably with a hangover, because it's most of the time a Wisconsin wedding, they already have their photos. They can already start sharing them on social media.
Yeah, I love that. And you bring up a good point too when you're talking about how there's a lot of guests that don't see certain things. So like they might not have been at the ceremony because it was a Friday and they were working or whatever it would be. But even the bride doesn't see a lot of things. Like she doesn't see her now husband getting ready. She doesn't see when he was, goofing around with his buddies or whatever in the morning. She doesn't see anyone walk down the aisle either. Like she's only seeing their backs at most, and maybe not even that because they have the door closed as she's waiting to come down. So even the main people in the wedding, like they don't even see half the things that happen that day. Or if they are seeing it, they're so caught up in the moment too, and there's like so much going on that they didn't really take a chance to breathe. And I think the photos are really cool because it kind of allows them to kind of stop for a second and be like, oh yeah, that happened and this happened, and like it was a great moment, and almost like kind of reflecting on what's happened that day. So I really love it. I think it kind of, in some ways I could see how like someone would be like, oh well, it's kind of silly because it's the same day, why do they need to see it? But it's kind of almost like a part of the experience of the day, like, okay, we did all these things and now we're getting to see like what the photographer came up with and what great photos he got from it.
Right. And that's something that I hear a lot, is especially from like a wedding couple, because they're looking at my camera, they're not seeing the sunset behind them. Mm-hmm. So I'll do a quick edit on that photo and I'll put it online at, right before, or not online, but on my TV right before we leave. And they're like, that was behind us. That sunset is what you saw. I was like, well, I edited a little bit, but yeah, because they're looking at the camera. They're not looking behind them. They're not enjoying the sunset. I mean, they're enjoying the moment where they're hugging or dancing or kissing or something like that, but they're not seeing what I'm seeing. And that's where I can quick edit and show them when their emotions are still high. Because I mean, if I send that photo to them 2-3 weeks later, they're not going to be in that moment quite as much as they are right then. So,
yeah, that's good. And you also mentioned something about, I think you used the example of like a 72-hour turnaround for sneak peeks. I would even argue that's like still too long. Like nowadays people want things right away. I mean, you have to think that, that annoying aunt with her camera that was in your way the whole wedding,
Oh, yeah.
she's going to have her photos up like probably during dinner, they're going to look terrible, but she's going to have them up. And so you want to get ahead of that and you want to be in front of that. So that way, when they change their profile picture or whatever, they're changing it to your photo and not like that really out of focus, dark photo that the aunt took. And so
exactly.
Anything you can do to kind of be fast is important, I think, nowadays, because people, they want that fast, instant gratification. And I mean, that's why you see all the time when they're doing the family photos, someone's like, oh, hey, photographer, can you take this on my phone? Because they want to post it to Instagram right away. And they know that the photographer might take months and months. And I think nowadays we just can't do that anymore. You got to be fast about it.
And that's kind of one of the reasons that I now offer the same day prints. So let me explain that a little bit. Like I said, I'm pretty sure I'm the only person crazy enough in this entire world/country to do a same day print. So what I do is I pick my favorite photo that I'm playing on the slideshow or on the TV. Usually I can pick one of the ones that are just that I feel is equally super artistic / something that they'll like. And what I do is I print that out in 50 to 100 4x6 prints, and I'll either hand them out or I'll put them on my table where I have the slideshow playing, and people can take them. I don't believe in like putting business cards or brochures or anything out at a wedding. I'm not trying to advertise myself to other couples actively. What I do is on those printed 4x6s, I actually just put a special keepsake from joshrussellweddings.com. It's like my watermark on them, and that's my way of advertising. So they're actually taking a photo home that they're going to probably put on their refrigerator or something like that, and it's got my information on it, but it's done in a tasteful way. So, and then I'll print, like I said, 50, 100, whatever I need to print out to make sure aunts, uncles, cousins, the wedding party, stuff like that, have a photo to take home with them from that day that's fully edited.
Yeah, I love that. It's kind of like a passive way of advertising instead of being direct in someone's face. Like, here, take one of my brochures. Or I've worked with some DJs and photo booths where they like put their business cards like throughout all the tables and on the end tables and in the hallway and everywhere.
Right.
And it's just like, no one's going to pick that up. It's just going to end up in the trash. You're just wasting all those. But the way you're doing it is so creative. And that's kind of, for us on the video side, we've done same day edits. They're not like super common, but we have done where we're actually like playing a film for them, like the day of the wedding with a projector, and we're hooking up with the DJ booth. But most couples aren't looking for that. But what we will do a lot of times is like a same day like teaser or like next day teaser. And so all I'm literally doing is, connecting my camera to my phone. I'm pulling off like some of the clips I really liked, and then I'm just editing them on my phone using like Premiere Rush. And, I edit it up. I make it like a vertical format, so it's good for social media. And then I'll post it online, and then I'll tag everyone. So, the couple, the venue, the vendors, location, all that kind of stuff. And then we'll go like a step further, and I'll find the bride and groom, and I'll find some photos they were tagged in, because chances are they've been tagged with their friends, who their friends are wedding party, or they've been tagged with their family. And then we'll go and start liking the photos they've posted from the wedding. So then they're like, oh, Bella Ti amo. Oh, that must be the guy that's shooting the video for today. So then they'll go back. And the first thing they'll see on our page is that little teaser we put together of the couple. And so I'm not like going out to these people at the wedding and being like, hey, you should hire us when you get married. But I'm kind of passively being like, hey, check out what we did for your friend on their wedding. And they're going to see that and they're going to really like that. And if they really like it, hopefully they reach out to us then. So yeah.
I think that's a great idea, especially with so many couples doing a hashtag now. It's going to be so easy to find them if you can figure out what their hashtag is. And like I said, you're like I was going to say, I should say, it's usually written somewhere, like in the front door or on a guest book or something. So like, I love that idea. And I've actually wrote that down in my notes when we were talking about that in our original conversation we had. Find their hashtag and then start liking the stuff, commenting on it, because that's going to drive people back to your social media. I love that idea.
Yeah, it's funny. Whenever I'm doing video, I don't take very many photos of during the wedding, but the one photo I will take is the photo of that little plaque they have with their hashtag on it. I'm like, I gotta have that. I'll ask for it in the questionnaire, but sometimes they don't put it, and then I'll find this little plaque and like, boom, I gotta have that. I gotta have that on my phone like immediately. So
it's a great idea.
Awesome. Well, I know another thing that you kind of do to set yourself apart, Josh, is the lighting and kind of the time you take setting up off-camera lighting. Now, obviously, we're a podcast for all wedding businesses, so they might not even know what off-camera lighting means. So I would love for you to just kind of explain what you do with your lighting and how that's kind of different than maybe a photographer who's just putting like a flash on top of their camera, or a quote-unquote natural light photographer. Like what's kind of setting you apart doing what you're doing with your lighting?
So I'll do it real quick, like explanation of 4 types of lighting. So there's natural light photography. Natural light photography is no flashes, no lights. You're using the sunlight, whatever you have available, interior lighting, stuff like that. There's direct camera flashes, which a lot of professional grade cameras don't have, but that's that little pop-up flash that'll come out on a camera. That's direct flash because it's facing directly at the subject. There's on-camera flash, which is like a speed light or any type of flash that'll go on, but you still have like some movement where you can direct it around. And then there's what I do, which is off-camera flash. So what my off-camera flash is I use a trigger that to trigger receivers that are connected to lighting wherever I want to put them. So I usually bring full-size studio lighting with me to every wedding. I'm using big giant umbrellas. I use grids on those, and basically what a grid is like the honeycomb look pattern. And what it does is it helps you direct the light. So I'll use off-camera flash to get my lighting. I really love using it outside in the sun. To be able to do that, you have to use very powerful flashes, though. You can't just use just your normal, your speed light won't work, your direct camera flash won't work. So you really have to have a powerful flash to be able to overpower the sun. But in the easiest way to say it for anybody that's not a photographer listening, what I do is I darken the background so I can get the skies blue, the trees green, stuff like that without the sun overexposing it. And then I will aim my flash at the subject. So you'll have the background will be nice and in color, but so will they. Because most of the time what you do, when you darken your background to compensate for the blue in the sky, your face will be a shadow because they don't have enough light on them because your sun is usually behind them, so it's creating a shadow on the front side of them. So then what I do is I use my flash to flash the front of them to equally expose for the background and the foreground. And that's really what I like to do outside sunrise and sunset, bright blue skies where most people really don't like bright blue skies because it's can be difficult to work with. I use my flash to basically overpower the sun, and that's what I teach a lot at conventions is overpowering the sun and how to use off-camera flash. Another great thing for off-camera flash is creating lighting where lighting usually isn't. So there's a place here in close to me. It's called Bridgewood. The inside of the Bridgewood is set up like an old city street, and it's very dark in there because they just have like street light posts. So with off-camera flash, I'm able to put one on my subject, and then I can actually take a second off-camera flash and take it way down the street, the hallway, and light up the background with a second one. So where a lot of people would struggle with that because they wouldn't have proper lighting, with me using my flashes and putting them on tripods wherever I want to, I can light up a background and make it look properly lit even in the darkest of conditions.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic, or I don't know if ironic is the right way to describe it, but it's funny to me because couples will maybe pick a venue and it's got this big bright window like right behind them, and they're in the ceremony and everyone's like staring at this big bright window and they're like, oh, it's going to be beautiful because it's a view of the golf course or a view of the city or whatever it is. And then you're inside and it's like the ugly can orange lights and they're barely even on. And so it's very dark in there. So our eyes are like auto adjusting to that. If we look outside, they kind of auto adjust for the brightness, and you look back inside and they adjust. But like, if you take a photo of that, I'm sure everyone knows, even if you're not a photographer, you take a photo of that on your phone's either going to try to expose for the outside so everyone's dark, or it's going to try to expose for the inside, and then you no longer see that background. So what you're almost doing is like you're kind of creating like what we thought it looked like. Whereas, if you're just, a photographer with no flash, you're going to only be able to do what the camera is capable of as far as like how much light it can let in, which is probably not going to be enough. And then the couple is going to see the photos and be like, well, where's our beautiful background? But like for you with your lighting setup, you're going to be able to properly light them so they're nice and bright, but then the outside is still coming through and they can still see that in the image. And it's kind of crazy how in a lot of ways you're basically creating what they thought they saw, but a camera would never actually be able to do that just by itself without the light.
Right, and that's kind of a few years ago. I've always had interest in off-camera flash. Like people like Joel Grimes has been an inspiration to me forever, and he's like one of the off-camera flash like gods, and he's just a genius with it. But I never really took the time to really dig into how to do it. Mostly because at that time lighting was very expensive and I wasn't charging enough to really get the multiple $1,000s worth of equipment that I needed. But I shot a wedding at a gorgeous church and just outside of Green Bay, and the whole backside of the church was windows because it was set on the woods or forest. There were trees like right behind, so they had these big huge windows. But it was very sunny the day I shot it. And I was using just an on-camera flash, like a speed light. And I just couldn't get the exposure correct. Because one, it was either exposing for the background, the trees, or the speed light just was getting them. So that's when I really decided to start digging into how to expose both for the background and foreground. And I learned that off-camera flash is the best way to do it. For me anyway. I mean, there are ways you can do it with speed lights, but for me, to create the vivid colors and stuff like that I wanted in my photos, off-camera flash was the way to go. Now at ceremonies, if I'm able to, I will take one of my powerful studio strobes, aim it towards the ceiling, and use the entire ceiling as a reflector. So that way it's still not a direct light directly onto the bride and groom during the wedding. I don't want it to be distracting. So I'll shoot it straight at the ceiling if that's possible and get that. You just use the whole ceiling as a reflector.
It's funny, you talking about being outside and using the flash to compensate for the sun. When I started, I worked with this one photographer who had a kind of probably a similar style to what you're doing, and they were doing a lot of off-camera lighting, and they'd show me the images and I was like, wow, that's gorgeous. I want to do that for my videos. So I went and got one of my little LED lights, and I take it out there and I turn it on and it didn't even do anything, because it's so bright outside.
Yeah.
It was making no influence at all. So yeah, it's kind of crazy how much light you need. Even what you're saying, even a speed light sometimes isn't enough power because the sun is so bright.
Yeah.
And so you really need the big guns to be able to pull that off for sure.
With us doing so with my videography, I would call it mostly natural light video. Mm-hmm. But with my commercial stuff, it's all lighting. And I've really, within the last year or so, we've really dove super deep into the commercial lighting and commercial sets and stuff like that. And it's insane, what you need for lighting for if you're trying to mix natural light and artificial light at the same time. Like you need either multiple very strong lights or like just super powerful lighting. It's insane. Like it's just crazy to think about like how strong that sun is to be able to compensate with an artificial light as well.
Yeah, it's wild, and it's the things that you don't realize that go on kind of behind the scenes. I know, this will be good for DJs. I know like a lot of DJs that don't like video lights for whatever reason, but it's like, well, and I can understand if it's like one of those videographers that's got the big bright light on top of their camera or whatever. But like whenever we're using lighting, we're kind of using it in conjunction with the DJ. So like if he's got some like colorful lights, not the little like Predator red dots or whatever.
Little pin
I don't
spots
like
all over. Yeah.
I don't like I don't like the dots. I don't like the stars and all that stuff. But if he's got like just some nice colorful like lights that are kind of adding some color, I'll put my lights and I'll shoot them kind of towards his, so then I can use his lights as like my backlight, and it's making this cool colorful look, and then my lights are just kind of brightening up people's faces a little bit so you can see them a little better. Because if I didn't have those lights, you know, it's just going to be, everyone's going to look red and blue and purple, but because I'm using some of my own light, which is like a daylight a daylight color, it's just making his lights just become backlights, so you get that color pop, but it's not like everyone is just those colors and that's all you see. And so there's kind of a lot of it's interesting, you know, like with weddings, because there's a lot that kind of goes into making an image that someone sees that they really like, and they don't realize that. They think like it's just going to be snapping a photo. So like when I talk to a DJ, he's like, well, what do you need your lights for? Like I have lights on. Like what do you need these for? And then I show him the difference. You know, I'll actually turn my lights off and be like, this is what it looks like right now. And then I'll turn them back on, and I'm like, this is what it looks like. Do you understand now why I want to have my lights? And then they'll get it, you know, and it's that cooperation and teamwork. Because I think some people would be afraid to do that. They'd be like, oh, well, the DJ yelled at me, so I'm going to, you know, turn the lights off and then just have bad images, and then the couple won't be happy.
Right. Yeah. And lighting is super important, especially for photography, especially at like the reception, because there are so much low light going on. And I mean, you can create good photos with that low light or with that ambient lighting and the DJ lighting, but to be able to pop my flash with a big umbrella on it, and I guess that's kind of the difference between my style of photography and a lot of others. Is if a lot of people with the speed lights, they're just snapping like crazy, where my flash very rarely goes off because I take less photos. I dial in my settings, and I will get my composition and get all of that first before taking a photo. That way I'm not just lighting the room up disco style and just strobing like crazy. Like I try to take less photos. That way I'm less distracting.
Yeah. Now, obviously this adds a lot more work. I've had a few DJs and officiants and stuff on the podcast who kind of go out of their way to add more work to what they're doing. And in a sense, sometimes they can have bigger packages because of that. Have you found that couples notice the difference in your photos compared to someone that's maybe like light and airy, natural photographer?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, with photography, and I'm sure you know with video as well, it absolutely is a get what you pay for industry.
Yeah.
Now there are people that charge way more than me that don't have quite as good a style. There's people that charge less than me that I'm like, these people are freaking amazing. So I mean, but it really is in general a get what you pay for industry. There is a reason why the big guys charge big money for the amount of work that they're doing. But there's so much competition, I guess, and I don't really like to say competition because I love networking with everybody, whether it's a photographer a block away from me or across town or in another state. But my style, I feel, kind of stands out in a world of right now where the vintage style and the light and airy style and stuff like that is very popular, where mine is really bright colors, a lot of contrast. Now it's not dark and moody, but it does have that really vibrant color to it. It kind of reflects that commercial photography feel, or that commercial video feel, where it's true to color, but still has that like little bit of vibrant pop to it. And I feel like that really drives a lot of people to book me, because in a world of light and airy, I'm showing more true to color.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And as you've progressed, because I know you didn't always start with this style, have you found that's allowed you to kind of, raise your packages, book more weddings, things like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, I said
It's
packages.
really.
I mean collections. I'm sorry.
I do it every now and then too. Like if I'm just quick talking, I'm like package, and I'm like, oh, I mean collection. But yeah. So yeah, it really has. It's definitely helped me raise my prices because I've won awards because of it, because of my style, and it also it intrigues people, because a lot of people don't understand why I have a giant 40-inch umbrella that my wife is carrying around swearing at me the whole time, because she's carrying this giant umbrella on a C-stand pole. So yeah, and it really intrigues people to find out. And then that goes back to the same day edits, because if somebody sees me at a wedding, be like, oh, give me an hour and you'll see it on the TV, and then you'll kind of understand. But yeah, my pricing, I guess directly it hasn't helped me raise my pricing, but because of the way that I shoot, it gets people to stop and look at my photography, and then in turn they start learning about the same day edits. They start learning about me in general. My first thing on my website is actually a short video that I've created with me as the intro. It just talks a little bit about the style that I shoot, how I shoot, why I shoot. And it auto plays when you go to my website. Now the audio is turned off. All you have to do is click it and the audio comes on, but there's captions. So you automatically start learning who I am before you even meet me. So the photos get their attention. They get to my website, they see a video of me, and then directly below that is the same day edits where I talk about that. And then after that, then there's links to my portfolio and some FAQs and stuff like that. I don't have any of my pricing on my website because I personally, and from learning from other people, feel that pricing shouldn't be talked about until maybe the second or third meeting or conversation, because it shouldn't, and I know that it's going to sound kind of weird or wrong, but pricing shouldn't matter when you're investing in photography, even though I know it totally does with everybody. But I feel like you should know and like the person, both on both ends. The photographer should be able to be comfortable with the couple, and the couple should be able to be comfortable with the photographer before even talking about pricing. Now, I do mention my price range in my first emails, but I don't actually mention pricing. I just kind of mention, my pricing collections on my collections start at this price, but most people usually invest X amount in my full day photography collection. So they kind of have an idea, but yeah, I don't really, I don't like to talk about pricing until honestly like a third conversation, a third meeting. And that's even actually after they come in here to talk photography with me. I still usually don't talk about pricing until after that in either another meeting or another conversation.
Yeah.
But
yeah. And I think that really helps set you apart from others, because if you're immediately giving them, if they inquire and you have a thing that auto sends them a pricing list, you're making it very transactional. You're making it no different than if they were going to Starbucks and they wanted to order something and they had $5 on their gift card. What can I get? Like that's kind of what's happening when you do that, but you're making it more about the experience and the relationship. And that's going to probably turn some couples off, but they probably weren't your couple to begin with, so it's okay.
I would say, I'd say honestly, probably 9 out of 10 couples that I meet with book me.
Yeah.
And it's probably even higher than that. Like I very often, after seeing everything that I offer, my hardbound albums that I put together, everything that's included in my full day collection, it's kind of hard to walk away from everything that I offer for the price that I do it at. Because like I said, I am still substantially under what I should be charging and what my direct competition or my direct other photographers in this area charge. So.
Yeah, good. Going back to the lighting and the pricing, it's those little things too that kind of add to the bigger picture. So, with us and video, one thing that I started doing a lot more of over the past couple of years was really focusing in on the audio. So the whole process. So like the way I was asking questions of the couple before the wedding, like, okay, who's important? Who is like people we want to make sure that like we hear and stuff? Because there's the obvious ones like the toast, but there's even little moments that happen that might be super important to them, and we might not have the audio for it. Like, for example, when the dad sees the bride for the first time. So we're almost always miking him up during that. We're miking up the groom during the first look. We might even mic up some of the bridesmaids when they see the bride for the first time. Like, we're trying to make sure that we are getting audio in every part of the day. And then we started using that more and just kind of using the natural sound mixed with added sound effects, with the music, with the voices and everything. And couples pick up on that. Like, they don't know what you're doing, but they notice it because so many other videographers are just doing music videos. And it's just music with visuals and that's it. And so they're hearing, this bride's grandpa like give a speech and he's, 90 years old or whatever. Like, that's going to reel them in right away, because not only do they see the guy, which the photos would have done that too, but they're hearing this guy, and eventually he won't be around. So they'll be able to go back to that and hear the voice. So there is, a lot of times I hear other wedding business owners say, like, the craft isn't that important. You just need to know how to be a business person. But I do think the craft, there's still a lot of things that are important about it, because that's what's going to help set you apart, especially if you're maybe not as good in the sales and you're not as good in, like, kind of marketing and stuff. The fact that you're doing something that's different than everyone else, couples are going to latch onto that, and they're going to want that for their wedding.
Right. And I guess a lot of it has to boil down to my attitude too, and being open, like able to talk and converse with somebody, and feeling, like I said, feel like you know me, and not like you're hiring me, but you're inviting me to your wedding. Most of the weddings that I do, honestly, I still stay in touch with. I've shot family photos, maternity photos, everything for them. And those are even people that I've shot, I was a videographer for. They've come back to me for photo, just because when I shoot just videography and I'm not the main photographer as well, I don't try to let it be portrayed that I am a photographer, but sometimes I do, kind of talk about it here and there. And like I said, a lot of them are Facebook friends with me now, and they see that my photography is my main goal, my main source. And they've come back to me, like I said, for family photos, for maternity photos, and child photos, and senior photos, and all sorts of stuff. Most of that stuff I don't really actively advertise. Like I said, I'm mainly commercial and wedding. But if somebody comes to me that I shot their wedding and they want senior photos, I still will absolutely do senior photos. It's not something that I market. It's not something that I actively search for. But I would never turn down a past client because it's not something that I typically shoot.
Yeah. So and that shoot's gonna go a lot smoother too, because there's already that trust you built with them. Like we do commercial work too, and we've had a few like brides or grooms that have their own business, and then they end up finding out that, like, oh, we actually do other things too. And it's just so easy working with them again, because, I mean, you just spent a whole day with them. You spent hours and hours looking at them on a screen as you're, like, putting together your edits. And you were talking to them afterwards, and maybe even met with them again to do an album or whatever. And so for them to come back to you, and now you're helping them with, like, their business or some other project, like family photos or whatever, that wall is already down. So it's like you already know each other. It makes it super easy to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Well, Josh, I know you have some cool stuff coming up, so I wanted to give you a chance to share about that for everyone.
Yeah, well, a couple things. This summer, in August, I'm going to be teaching at ClitCon, which is a convention in Chicago. You're teaching there as well, too, right?
Yep, I will be there with you, too.
That's awesome. And little side note before I go in, I have actually been subscribed to your YouTube channel for like years, and anytime that I need some videography ideas, I do go to your channel and check it out. So I'll let you know that right away, that it's often on my must-watch list. But yeah, August, I'm teaching at ClitCon for a couple days. August 10th through 13th, I think, is the dates. It actually runs through the 14th, but I won't be there the last day or something like that. But I won't be there the last day. I think it's either the 10th through 13th or 10th through 14th. It's in Chicago, the Midwest's largest photography video convention. I hope to see you guys out there. I'll be teaching with Westcott or for Westcott. And then also just in 2 weeks from today, actually, 2 weeks from tomorrow, sorry, May 6th, I'm doing a complete wedding photography workshop here local to me in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. It's at Poplar Creek Barn. It's a wedding venue, a barn venue, and they've actually put together vendors as far as flowers, dresses, invitations, linens, attire, everything to set up a full wedding. Myself and professional photographer Andrew Herman, he runs Andrew Herman Photography. Me and him are going to be teaching that, and it's a 4-hour workshop, basically a full wedding setting. So we're going to be teaching you like how to do lay flats, and what a lay flat is, for those that don't know, is where you set shoes, flowers, invitation, ring all down and then shoot straight down at it. So we're going to be teaching how to do wedding lay flats. We're going to be teaching you how to do ceremony photos, venue photos, detail shots, wedding couple photos, and then sunset photos, hopefully if there's a sunset, because both of us really kind of specialize in sunset photography. So yeah, that's coming up May 6th. It's a Thursday. I know that kind of sucks for people, but if you can take an afternoon off and come out, it's from 4 to 8 p.m., we may run a little bit later because we can actually stay inside the venue a little later and do like some night stuff and stuff like that. But it's actually scheduled from 4 to 8. Complete wedding photography workshop, May 6th. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm super excited about that.
Awesome. I'll put it in the description, and if you want to share that in the group, you can too. So that would be
cool,
great.
man. Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of fun. And yeah, ClickCon should be a blast. I got to go as just an attendee 2 years ago, and as soon as I was there, I was like, I want to get more involved in this because it's like literally in my backyard. I want to be a part of this. And then they had asked me to teach last year, and then of course, we had COVID.
Yeah.
So I did get to do an online class, which was fun. But other than that, we didn't get to do a ton of stuff in person. So I'm really looking forward to that. I hope, fingers crossed, that it all comes together all right and we can make it happen. If not, they might need to start moving it to Wisconsin or something if we can't do it again.
We're pretty wide open here.
Yeah.
I actually 2 years ago I went as an attendee as well, and I was just really starting to push my YouTube channel at that time. So that's actually how I contacted Westcott. Is I met them there, let them know that I was doing a YouTube channel. They let me borrow a light for a night, and I did like a quick little YouTube video for it, and kind of got the ball rolling that way. Same with me. Sherry messaged me, asked me if I wanted to teach last year, and I was going to teach. I ended up doing one online, and then I did a wedding photography workshop, one of their little mini conventions at Union Station in Chicago in September. And then I taught again at Starved Rock State Park, I think is what it's called. In January, I taught that, which was like a snow fairy type princess, fairy tale type photo shoot. So that was a lot of fun too. But yeah, I taught 2 for them over the year. They weren't type conventions like what I really love doing, but yeah, I'm excited for this year for sure. I'll be into Chicago the night before, and I want to do pretty much as many photo shoots as I can the entire 4 days that I'm there, in between teaching and stuff like that. So as soon as I get there, I think it's Monday night or Sunday night, whatever the night before is, I'm ready to go. So anybody that is a model that's watching this, or somebody that wants photos, let me know. I'll be in Chicago the night before, and I just want to go crazy.
That's awesome. Looking forward to it. Well, Josh, before we head out, I would love for you to just give one last piece of advice. If you were, if say we have a photographer, videographer, just any wedding business owner that's just starting out, what's the one piece of advice you would give them?
Do everything that you can to make your job personal, as far as comfortability. So like I said, I don't try to portray myself as a business person as much as I do someone that you can rely on to create a product for you. And that's how I've won my awards. That's how I am talked about in this area, stuff like that, because I don't try to make myself look like someone that I'm not. I'm just a dude who likes photography and likes to create epic stuff. So that's who I am. That's who I'll always be. And I try to tell everybody to be that way, and be upfront. Like I'm always, so if I get an email about a wedding date, an inquiry, I always try to answer that inquiry within an hour. No matter what, no matter where I am, I try to run to a bathroom or something and at least email them back. I'm my entire experience of booking me and working with me is always answer back as quick as you can. I personally hate waiting on an email or a reply, so I don't want to make anybody else feel that way if they do. So try to be as quick as you can, be completely open and honest about everything, and honestly just keep learning. If it wasn't for me taking so much time learning on YouTube and watching courses and stuff like that, I would be nowhere near where I'm at now, running a six-figure photography business out of a town of 10,000 people. So yeah, just learn. Honestly, just keep learning, be honest, be open, and be yourself.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I think that urgency is important, and I've answered many bride inquiries in the bathroom, so there is nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
Josh, thank you again for your time. I really appreciate it. And until next time, we'll see you.